If you're thinking about moving to Tennessee, you are most likely wondering about the Tennessee cost of living. Is living in Tennessee affordable? We're gonna talk about that right now. What's up, y'all? I'm Rachel Hadidsazrealtor with eXp Realty here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. As you're researching online whether or not Tennessee is going to be affordable for you and your family, keep in mind that a lot has changed just in the last couple of years. So check the date on those statistics. As we talk about how much it's going to cost you to live in Tennessee in 2022, we will talk groceries, utilities, the cost of owning and driving a car, taxes, cost of childcare, as well as the housing market, renting versus owning a home. And as a bonus, at the very end, you'll want to stay tuned for how much do I need to make in Tennessee to afford the average house? Groceries. It is no secret that the cost of food has increased dramatically within the past year. I don't care where you're living, it costs more to feed you and your family, even in restaurants. Within the last 12 months, we've seen the biggest increase in the price of food since the 80s. Here in Tennessee, milk is going to run you about $3.70 a gallon. A loaf of bread is gonna be about $3 a loaf. For a standard carton of eggs, you're gonna be looking at paying $2.20 a dozen. Chicken is about $5 a pound, bacon is about $5.50 a pack, so compare that to where you're living now. Overall, groceries have risen about 3 to 5% in the last year, but I'm sure rising gas prices have also contributed because it costs more to get food from point A to point B. Utilities. So luckily, utilities have not seen a big increase within the past 2 years. I haven't seen a big increase in my bills. If there has been an increase, it's been very negligible. The average electric bill in Tennessee is going to be about $125. So I'll tell you, for my 1,200 to 13 square foot townhome, my electric bill is usually about $100 a month, more in the wintertime, less in the months of fall and April, around in that time where it's just very mild outside and I can basically turn it off. It's kind of nice. Water here in Rutherford County, it's costing me about $60 a month. However, it really just depends on where you're living. The cost of water, it typically runs anywhere from $30 to $60 a month. Obviously, a bigger house, if you have a pool, things like that are going to increase the cost of your utilities. But overall, I think Tennessee is pretty average in terms of utility costs. As far as internet, we're also pretty average. You're gonna be looking at about $60 to $100 a month, just depending on the speed that you want. And of course, not everywhere in Tennessee has the best internet. There are dead zones where all you have available to you is satellite internet. You can check out the FCC website internet map and then double check those speeds with the local cable company to make sure that that website is accurate to determine if where you're looking to move to in Tennessee is going to have reliable internet. All right, let's talk owning and driving a car. So the average car insurance Tennessee for full coverage is about $1,200 a year. Obviously, that's gonna go up or down depending on your driving record, whether you have insurance bundled, whether you have, what kind of coverage that you have. The amount that you'll pay for your car registration, that is going to vary by county. Now, I can tell you, when I was going to UT in Knoxville, I was still living in Putnam County. The car registration there was $25 a year, which is really, really affordable. Knoxville, it was more. I believe they had a wheel tax. If you're living in Knox County, can you let us know below? Do you still have the wheel tax, and how much is your county registration? I'm really interested to know, wherever you live, how much are you paying to register your car per year? I know in California, I've heard it can be hundreds of dollars, and even depending on if you have a vehicle that has higher emissions, things like that. Here in Rutherford County, we do not do emissions testing anymore. They stopped that just last year. It was $9 annually, so they actually just increased the cost of our registration by $4 a year. So here in Rutherford County, I'm paying $86.50 for my car registration each year, but I don't have to do that emissions testing anymore. Okay, so let's talk gas prices in Tennessee. Definitely, it's gone up in 2022, but I think we're still around the national average. Here in Murfreesboro, I'm seeing prices around $3.90 a gallon right now, but everything's still kind of hovering around that $4 mark. It's been really rough lately. I have seen them go down just within the last couple of days. I'm really interested to know how much are gas prices right now where you live, because it's up and down every day. Gotta love that Costco discount. I think they are around $3.63 a gallon right now, which is pretty much the best around here. They have talked about suspending the gas tax in Tennessee, but I think that would only give us maybe a 40 to 60% break, and only for a limited time. So I'm not really sure if they're gonna do that. It would definitely offer some relief at the pump, especially if you are having to drive like one of those big trucks. My boyfriend has to pay like $100 to fill up his tank now. It's pretty ridiculous. Let's talk property taxes as well. So property taxes in Tennessee, they're a little bit below the national average. It really depends on where you're coming from if you're gonna pay more or less. Now, if you're coming from states like California, Illinois, Texas, you're gonna pay a lot less in property taxes here in Tennessee. How the tax rates are assessed, that is different for each state from what I understand. So really, go watch my video on how to calculate your property taxes to find out more on that, because I'm not gonna get into it here. Just know that Tennessee is pretty much in line with the national average, maybe a little bit below. Here in Rutherford County, I'm so kind of nervous this year because it's an assessment year, and with the increase in property values, I'm interested to see how that will impact my taxes on my townhome. Even though the tax rate itself hasn't increased, the rise in property values over the last 2 years, how much more am I gonna be paying? Before, I've been paying probably around $1,300 a year for both the city and county taxes combined. It's all determined by your jurisdiction, whether you live in the city and the county or just out in the county. That's where your tax rate comes from. Obviously, one really awesome thing about living in Tennessee is that we have no state income tax. So we're one of only like 7 or 8 states. Florida and Texas are notable states for having no state income tax as well. However, we do have to offset that with a little bit higher sales tax, which is 9.75%. And that's on everything from groceries to personal items. You name it, you're gonna pay 9.75% sales tax. Now, I have heard of some people in the lower Tennessee counties, they like to hop over to the Alabama side of things and get all of their groceries at Sam's Club and things like that, bring them back up to Tennessee. I think their sales tax in Alabama is like 7.25, somewhere around in there. Definitely verify that in the comments for me, but it's a really great idea if you're living in one of those more rural areas. Just cross the border, get a cheaper price on your groceries, probably even on your cars as well. I do see a lot of people with like an Alabama dealer tag on their cars because they don't want to buy here in Tennessee, but to each their own. Okay, let's talk childcare in Tennessee. Now, I'm really interested to know if you're in a different state than Tennessee, how much you're paying for childcare, because here it's about $800 a month if you're not getting any sort of a break, and that's just for one child. So it's about $200 a week. If you're a low-income family, you can try to sign up for the Smart Steps program on the Tennessee government website. When I was a single mom working at Amazon, it brought that $800 down to about $300, much more manageable. I'm so thankful that my son's gonna be going to school this year so that obviously the public school is free. Now, I don't really have any information on the cost of private schools or the alternative schools like Montessori or Waldorf schools. If anybody has any info on that, please post it down in the comments. We also have a really large homeschool community here in Tennessee, and there are a plethora of Facebook groups that you can tap into if you want to know about homeschooling in Tennessee. Okay, so the housing market. Both the cost of renting and owning a home has gone up significantly just in the past year. Wages have not grown to compensate for that amount of growth that we've seen in just the cost of living. Here in Rutherford County, renters are paying anywhere from $1 to $1.25 a square foot just to rent a home, which is pretty expensive. Even in places like Cookeville, McMinnville, they've seen a great increase in the amount of rent. And it's obviously going to cost more in the cities versus the smaller areas. But then if you're working in the city, driving from a smaller area, you're going to be paying more in gas. So, it's kind of a which is better scenario. If you have a car that's good on gas mileage, you might want to consider living a little bit further out from your job. So let's talk, what if you're moving to kind of the suburbs around Nashville? Now, here in Murfreesboro, we are still one of the most affordable suburbs in and around Nashville compared to places like Brentwood, Spring Hill, Mount Juliet. You can get more bang for your buck here in Murfreesboro. I do hear a lot from people that are relocating saying, I need to rent for the first year. I want to make sure that I'm on the best side of town that I want to be in. That cost of peace of mind is possibly going to increase your mortgage, or it's going to determine that you can't afford as much house as you could a year ago. So maybe you're looking at getting a smaller house if you decide to rent for that first year. Now, in my opinion, I don't feel like there is some dividing line in Murfreesboro between the good and the bad side. Like every little subsection of Murfreesboro has really everything that I need. I kind of live off Church Street. I have the grocery, the gas stations, everything that I need is right here. There's not like a better part of town. You know, some parents prefer different school zones because they have different athletic programs that their children love, but you know, and you can get on these mom Facebook groups and they'll tell you, oh, this school zone is the best. I have to be triple Blackman or triple Siegel. You know, it is what it is. You can check out the school ratings for yourself on greatschools.org. However, I think every part of town has something to love about it, and I don't really agree with this. I need to know what part of town to live on. You're gonna end up paying more for a home in a year, guaranteed. So just how much have home values increased within the last year? Here in Murfreesboro, we're paying 25% more for a home than we were just a year ago. So just remember that if you're wanting to rent, you're still gonna be paying someone else's mortgage. I would just recommend going ahead and getting into a house if you're planning on being here for 2 years or more. If you're not gonna be in Murfreesboro for that long, you probably are better off renting. As far as the average home in Tennessee, like the standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath, probably around 2,000 square foot home on a third of an acre lot, that's not a lot of land. That's, you know, definitely more yard space than you're offered in California, for example. But you're looking at paying around $275,000 for that house. That's just average across the state. If there's an area with lower median values, you know, there's probably a reason for that. It's gonna be in a more rural area. It's gonna be away from the higher paying jobs, things like that. Keep in mind when you're moving to Tennessee, not every home is gonna come with a lot of land. The cost of land is going up, so if you want a home with a lot of land, you might wanna definitely check your budget and see what to expect there. Okay, so here's a quick snapshot of some of the median home values in and around the Nashville area. Nashville has increased about 12% from 2021 to 2022, hovering around that $370,000 mark. Now, I was surprised that Murfreesboro is actually starting to surpass Nashville a little bit. We're looking at around $375,000 for just that average 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And that's up 25% from a year ago. If you're looking for one of those more desirable areas like Franklin, you want Justin Timberlake to be your neighbor, you're gonna be paying for that. You know, their home values have gone up nearly 40% in the last year. That's insane. Statistics here say that, you know, around close to $650,000 to $700,000 is the average cost of a house, but you definitely want to have $1 million budget if you're looking at Franklin, Tennessee. Now, if you're looking at Mount Juliet, it's less than Franklin, but it's more than Murfreesboro. So you are looking at paying about $450,000 for that average home. People love Mount Juliet. It's a really great place to live. I think any of these areas have something to love about them. I don't think that you need to really live in one place over the other just to say that you live there. I say, look at what do you want to be close to. If you need to be within 30 minutes of the airport, Mount Juliet might be a better place because Murfreesboro in the mornings, it can take like an hour just to get to the airport, even though it's only 30 miles away and it shouldn't take that long. So really, any of these counties are going to be really great to live in, and there's some other counties in and around Nashville as well. Now, a lot of people like Williamson, Rutherford, and Wilson because they are statistically higher rated on greatschools.org. However, I think that anywhere you can get a good education for your children. I grew up in Putnam County and I did okay. Just remember that in these counties that have so-called better schools, you're going to be paying more for those homes. So bottom line, how much money do you need to make annually to afford to live in Tennessee comfortably? Obviously, this is going to depend on the size of your family. If you're moving to a really high cost of living place, I gotta say San Diego, really high cost of living there, you're going to be very comfortable making 50% of what you made in San Diego. So if you made $250,000 there, you can have that same life for $125K per year. It can be really tricky determining from state to state how much you're going to need to make per year. You can look at online calculators that say, okay, so you're going to be paying more, this state you're going to be paying less, but because there's been so many changes within the last year, probably add some money onto that just to err on the side of caution. However, let's go back to that average cost of a home in Tennessee, which is $275,000 for that standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath on a quarter to third of an acre lot. If you're putting down 20%, around $55,000, you're gonna be okay making around $50,000 a year. Obviously, that all depends on your down payment, debt to income ratio. So really, the best thing to do is just speak to a lender about what you can afford and what you can expect out here. It really doesn't ding your credit like a lot of people say. You just have to put a little bit of work into it. But if you're not willing to put in the work, you're probably not gonna be moving here anytime soon. Anyway, if you found any value in this content whatsoever, I appreciate you hitting that like button. Subscribe with the bell so that you'll be the first to know when I post a new video. I've got so much info coming out about life and real estate in Tennessee, so I'll see you at the next video.